I have the privilege of introducing our Female Game Changers panel today, featuring women who do work for women by women. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our other panel members. You've already met Keech Combe Shetty, CEO of Vagisil, and I'd like to welcome Dr. Logan Levkoff, a sexuality and relationships expert. You've seen her all over the place, including here at BlogHer, and Bethany Edwards, the co-founder of Leah Diagnostics, and she was the pitch winner at our BlogHer Health Conference back in January, so extra exciting. Thank you so much for coming today. We are, as I mentioned, so fortunate to have these three amazing female game changers with us who are all making a big difference in women's health. So just kind of going down the line, what made you so passionate about women's health and interested in working in this space?
Sure. So, this is going to sound a little cynical, but I became really passionate about women's health when I realized that it could be a tool that could be used against us, that it could be used to control our position in society. And so that really was the moment that I really became passionate about it. I mean, I grew up in a small rural town in Pennsylvania, and we obviously had inadequate sexual education in our community and in our high school, and I watched a lot of my friends and cousins become mothers young. They really had little choice. And so when you realize that there's a mechanism at play in the world, kind of this force that sort of, encourages us to do certain things in certain ways, it really inspires us to do other things. And so I really believe that, and my whole point is that women should create products for themselves. They should be the engineers, the scientists, the business leaders, the marketers of our own products created and designed by ourselves, because then we can purchase those products and we can start to change our position in society and start to change the flow of money. So that's my deal.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to wave out there. I know you're like behind the pillars. Hi. So my name is Logan Levkoff. I actually, first of all, I'm honored to be on a panel about game changing, because it took me a long time to figure out in my space that I was an entrepreneur in some way. I mean, I am old enough to admit that there were really no public people other than Dr. Ruth talking about sex when I started almost 30 years ago. So I really started as a 15-year-old kid who came home and my parents had condoms and bananas sitting on my dinner table. And they were like, this is how you use a condom, and next week you're gonna be a peer trainer. And I went, oh, okay. Now, by the way, that was really easy because I wasn't yet sexually active, so I'm like, I could totally do this. But the truth is that I was raised with privilege, and I understood that, and my parents always told us with privilege came responsibility. And that meant doing something that made a difference and speaking up for others who didn't have a voice and for issues that needed to be called out. And so when I went to college, I watched myself and my friends, those who may or may not have looked like me, making some really bad decisions when it came to sex. And it wasn't the bad decisions like not using condoms. It was like no equity, no orgasm, no pleasure, shitty partners of like every gender variety. And I was like, I don't really understand how this happened. This is supposed to be fun. Like, this is supposed to be good. There's obviously something wrong. So I really sought to tackle that issue and be a voice in the sexuality space. And while I started doing this as a young person, I'm so excited there's more than just me doing it now. So thank all of you who are part of this journey.
Great, Keech.
Thank you. And I love that journey, by the way. I have a little confession to make. When I was probably about, 8, 9, 10, 11, somewhere around there, I was a bit of a bully in school.
No.
Yeah, it's true, because I was well on my way to becoming an elite gymnast, and so I was way stronger than all the boys in my class. And at that age, boys are picking on girls and girls are picking on boys, and I was the muscle and the enforcer for the girls' side. So I think a little bit was kind of always ingrained in me, like we gotta protect each other. But I think that was dormant for a little bit. It really became alive for me when I in working from my family business, of which Vagisil is a part of, I've traveled all over the world, done research with women, literally all over the world. And I found that women themselves, we are all the same. We have the same problems, same issues, the same struggles. Yeah, there might be some social or cultural nuances between them, but at the base of it, we're all the same. But I also found that the way that women's health and wellness is treated in a society is very symbolic of how women are viewed in that society. And frankly, it infuriated me. And so when I moved back to the US, to New York, it really fueled a fire that the whole being shameless about vaginal health, about intimate health, about sexual health, that's really where that came from, is that there's too much shame going on around the world, around this space, and we need to take control of this conversation and be more shameless also, and support each other more. And so I think that's really where the fuel really came from.
Great, thank you. This is amazing. So we're all people who work in the women's sexual and reproductive wellness space. What can everybody else, and what could we generally do as women to help destigmatize women's sexual and reproductive health? And are there any specific places that you would recommend going to for information?
Ooh, that's a fantastic question. I think the first thing we do to destigmatize all of these issues is to own the fact that we have them, right? I mean, we are so much better, by the way, today than we've been in the past, for sure. But you know, the reason why so many issues come up is that we are afraid to share our stories, whether it's our stories using emergency contraception or having an abortion or making a decision to be childless by choice. Whatever it is, we have to start owning those. The one thing I can tell you about women is that we are incredible storytellers. And we share our stories with each other privately in our own communities and circles, but we don't make that public. And that's why all of you sitting in the room, the influencers and the bloggers, are so important, because the more stories we have, the better off we all are. So, I mean, yeah, there are places to get facts, but the truth is, for conversations with integrity and the stories that are meaningful and help change our lives, look to each other. I mean, that's why you're all here, and that's what you're all so amazing at.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Just to build off of that, I think to realize that you're never alone. There's always someone else who's experiencing what you're experiencing, going through what you're experiencing. I mean, going back to what I was talking about before, and part of the conversation that we're trying to start is the fact that 1 in 2 women may need an emergency contraceptive. That's a lot. That's like, look to your right, you look to your left. You know, one of you guys is gonna need emergency contraceptive. I might need emergency contraceptive. My sister, my friends, whoever. And so, in terms of the storytelling, what we're hoping to try to do is to start supporting each other in that conversation and making it less of a stigma by getting that conversation out there through hashtag we are 1 in 2, because it could be you, it could be me, we are all 1 in 2, and to continue that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that's important to realize is that stigma exists because it's been something that's been passed down, code, systems, process. What you understand in the world has been passed down to you through generations upon generations upon generations. And so the only way that you start to change those narratives is by putting out different stories, by challenging the status quo, and by challenging the way that things currently are. And so the other thing I would really say is that you gotta lead with questions. You know, ask what if, ask why not. Start to change the narratives that are out there, because in doing so, we have the ability to reprogram our society. And I think that's really what we're trying to do here, and that benefits everybody at the end of the day.
And I think we need to call bullshit on the systems that aren't working for us. So could we just try something?
Yeah.
Can we all just yell bullshit? They're gonna hate me at Chinos for doing this, it's all on camera. Can we do that on 3? Just, right? 1, 2, 3.
Bullshit.
Thank you. Right? I mean, because I think we're afraid. We want to be ladylike. We want to be polite. And sometimes we just need to say, you know what? That's bullshit. That doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for my health and my body. And I'm not going to go by your rules anymore.
Yeah.
You might want to throw in a finger or two. I don't know.
No, absolutely. And for so long, medicine has been so one size fits all for women. So as Gabrielle Union was talking about yesterday, birth control pills are used as a cure-all. And yeah, they're amazing at preventing pregnancy, but a lot of other things, could happen as well. And, they don't solve everything. So it's important.
No, and I think it's tough because we are programmed to listen to authority figures, right? No questions asked, and this is just how it is. Not only authority figures, our families, our communities, dare I say, our religions. Like we're programmed to listen. But I mean, think about where these concepts and where these rules originally came from. Is that still relevant to you today? Don't be afraid to ask questions. I mean, Serena Williams, right? One of the most powerful women in the world, just was telling the story about how she really had to fight with her doctor to be heard that she was having an issue with her delivery, and it saved her life. And this is one of the most powerful women in the world. Imagine, like anyone else. It's tough, but you just have to keep asking questions.
Yeah, roles without reason, I think, are one of the most frustrating things. And we have to really start to question why they exist.
Absolutely, that is, if we take one thing away from today and from this, past 2 days, it's don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to question doctors, to do your own research, to really look into things and not just necessarily accept a diagnosis because it's given to you. So we are female game changers. Well, you are. So the way we create and market products can open a dialogue to address issues that affect women most. How do you feel that women here at BlogHer have impacted women's health or your brand?
Yeah, I think one of the great things that BlogHer is doing is we saw it yesterday with the fematizing awards, right? I think that's a really great example, right? Because we know that the ad industry is still kind of, not necessarily equal in terms of the makeup of the ad industry. And so the way that the ads are being produced are really being created for a certain type of people. And so to make sure that we're creating positive images for women, I think are really important. And BlogHer really showed that, I think, yesterday. I think that's a really strong point. And that if you create the products as women, products designed for women by women, and then that you are also in charge of marketing that product and you can control that messaging, that really helps change the societal norms as well. So there's a lot of power that goes into creating and marketing.
You want me to take this?
Yeah.
Every time I come to BlogHer, I think this is my third or fourth, I can't remember. It's exhausting, but I always come away so jazzed because I see so many women supporting each other and trying, and there's no secret sauce. Like everything's open. I feel as the CEO of Vagisil, like we're kind of like the elder statesman in this area, right? We've been around since 1974. I think it's a personal responsibility that we have to help other women in this space. It's an exciting time where, I know Bethany and Logan, and I personally view it as a responsibility. I want to get your message out there as much as possible. What can I do to help get your message there out as much as possible? How can I help you expand your market share or market opportunities, or how can we connect people? That environment it's going to change things.
And thank God for people like you, Keech, right? You're running a private company, and that has a lot of power, right? The fact that it's family-owned, the fact that you can actually comfortably control the message. There were certain people that wouldn't probably take on emergency contraceptive, right? Because for fear of how that negative really reflects on their larger corporation or corporate brand, right?
But I think that's a space to talk about the role that EC plays, like in all of us. So first of all, and when I use the word, women, please know I'm not just suggesting that it has to do with body parts. I believe that anyone who identifies as a woman is a woman, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You are a woman. So That being said, I think that sexuality is such a fundamental part of who we are from birth to death, and we express it differently throughout all of our lives. But the one thing we are always entitled to have is this concept of a sexual health toolkit, right? Every experience we have, every partner we have, every moment is going to be different, and those sexual toolkits are based on, condoms, contraceptives, emergency contraception, because you have the right to access the information and services you need. You also have the right, and this is really important, for pleasure. I don't know why we would bother doing anything if it didn't feel good. Feeling good is important. And you have a right to use your voice and consent enthusiastically, and that's what this is all about. You all have choices. You all have we all have choices and rights and access. And certainly I'm part of this journey with you. Whatever we can do to put that story out there and say our sexuality matters on our own terms is essential.
Yeah, absolutely. This is amazing. Thank you. So a lot of existing women's health products are marketed towards women, highlighting things that we should think are wrong with ourselves. We're either not traditionally beautiful enough, or too fat, or too smelly. What are you doing in your space to work against that?
It's you, Keech.
Yeah, that is me. So, 14 years ago, last week, I was involved in a pretty serious skiing accident. You know this story. And I broke my neck. I shattered my C5 vertebrae. And for a little while there, couldn't move or feel anything from the neck down. Had emergency surgery, came out of that okay. Had a long road to recovery, but 4 weeks after that accident, I started Kellogg Business School in a neck brace and a cast up to here. And that's, by the way, how I met my husband. So I don't know what that says about him, but and my big takeaway from that experience was when I first was able to take the neck brace off after 3 months of having a neck brace on for 24 hours. My first experience was I went to the big dance, right, the big social event. And mind you, I had just come from being, high-flying executive at Estee Lauder. This is like Devil Wears Prada days, and all of a sudden I'm in sweats and t-shirts because I can't physically get anything else on me, and trying to compete with some of the smartest people in the world at business school. And I show up at this dance, and I'm feeling really fucking good because I'm like, okay, I have some freedom back. I can move, and I have some freedom back. And I will never forget this moment. Some women who I was in my section, my group, came up to me and they said, "Oh, Keech, we didn't recognize you." Okay, this is just a neck brace. I don't know how you don't recognize me. Okay, and then one of them said, "You're like a real person now." And I was like, "Shit, is that what they think?" Because I thought I was always a real person. I mean, inside, my brain has not changed. My feelings have not changed. I'm still a real person inside. And I've really carried that lesson with me. It's very personal. I personally think that this whole getup, it's just a vehicle for your brain to get around. It doesn't matter what you look like, where you came from, who you love, who you worship, what you think, what you believe. This is a vehicle for your brain to get around. Okay, so anyone, I don't care if it's a person, I don't care if it's a brand, I don't care if it's a message, anyone who thinks differently, that thinks that because you don't fall into whatever this ideal stereotype is, whatever that ideal shape or smell or whatever is, it's bullshit. It's total bullshit. Yeah. So how that's manifested in our lives, in my life personally, is when I became CEO and we built our senior management team. Some of them are here today. We're 50% women, 50% international. Although a lot of them are becoming U.S. citizens now, so I have to say international origin. And then our workforce is 60% women, 40% men. We don't have a diversity policy. That's, I think, how the world should be. Is we want the best brains. The best brains are in this room right here today, and we cannot waver on what our North Star is internally.
But Keech has the luxury of doing that. I mean, I think for a lot of us, right, we come up against certain challenges, but I would say in the work that I do, and I'm primarily a sexuality educator, I'm in schools, that my responsibility is to show, discuss, visualize all the different ways it means to exist as a sexual being, which is racially diverse, ethnically diverse, gender fluidity, body differences, different kind of physical abilities or disabilities, like all of the things that make us who we are. We could all do a better job at being better in terms of representation. I mean, that's a reality. So, I'm certainly committed to doing more of that, and I think that it's just something we should always keep in mind. We want a greater voice, which isn't just something verbal or written, it's also a visual representation, and the more we do that, the better off we all are in the end.
Can I just add one more quick thing too?
Yeah, go.
Is to also not judge each other on what you like. Like, you do you. So I mean, and just tying back to how that's relevant for our products is I am a very allergic person. I'm like allergic to all sorts of things. I have to read the ingredients for everything. I brought my own makeup here today because I'm nervous about what's being put on me. And so for when we launch products, if I can't use it, we don't put it in our product. We develop everything with gynecologists, with dermatologists. Everything's clinically tested, safety tested. Like, I am fanatical about this. But I'm someone who also likes fragrances. I'm sensitive to fragrances, but I like fragrances. And so when we launch things like Sensitive Scents, it's a hypoallergenic wash and wipes. And actually, I think you guys have samples in your bags. We have samples all over the place, so just pick one up wherever you see one. I don't think I should be judged that I want to experience a fragrance. I'm not saying I don't like how I smell. I know what healthy smell is. That's perfectly healthy. But I don't think we should be able to judge each other on that either.
Absolutely. It's all about having options and making informed choices, and this is amazing. So we're wrapping up now, so let's end on a positive note. What are some initiatives that you're excited about moving forward in the women's health space, either that you're involved with or that you know about?
Sure. I mean, I'm very excited that this year we'll be launching Leah, which is the first flushable 100% biodegradable pregnancy test.
Show the dirt.
Yeah, do you have the dirt?
Yeah, I have the dirt. So this is what a Leah pregnancy test looks like after only 8 weeks. So there is 0 plastic, there's no nitrocellulose, there's no glass fibers, and it disperses in water. I'm going to pull it out for you.
It's flushable, so discreet
Flushable,
as well.
super discreet. This is it. Really thin, ultra discreet, and eliminating over 2 million pounds of plastic waste that pregnancy tests account for in the US alone each year. And I mean, that's one of the biggest things that we're doing here. We're eliminating wasteful plastics and making the world better in that sense, but we're also providing women with a level of privacy. So, we know that pregnancy is personal. We know that even women who are trying to get pregnant and struggling with IVF don't necessarily want to look at plastic pregnancy test waste building up in their trash and being reminded of that on a daily basis. So we're allowing you to be able to flush and dispose of it as you wish. You can also compost it or crumple it up and put it in the trash, or you can keep it. It still saves, and you can keep it in a scrapbook if you really choose to.
Baby book.
You can put it in a card.
Surprise!
Surprise!
I would say, so I like to think of myself as an optimist, but I do recognize that we as women are coming up against some significant challenges in the reproductive and sexual health space. Like that, we have to own that. That's unfortunate, but that's where we are. But I do think, and this is the optimist in me speaking, that this is such an important time for us to be sharing our stories, talking, coming out and saying, this is who we are, this is what our needs are, and this shit is not okay. And I think that if anything we leave here and say, there might be policies being made that impact us, but we're going to find a way to fight those locally in our communities and make sure that the people in our lives have the things they need, whatever those things may be, whether it's EC, condoms, access to abortion, contraception. We have the right to those things because that's what makes us sexually healthy. And without sexual health, we have nothing.
Woo!
All right. Well said.
I'm going to build off of that. Clearly, that's great. So I talked about I'm really excited about the hashtag we are one and two and supporting each other with unplanned pregnancies and emergency contraception and Preventiza. But what I'm really pumped about is, I hope it came across. Preventiza is not a product launch for me. It's not. This is a mission. And we're really putting our money where our mouth is, or our mouths are, whatever. It's early, I haven't had enough coffee. And for me, it's my family business. It's a private company. And with this launch, profits are secondary for us. My goal is to provide access, education, and choice in case you're faced with an unexpected situation where you have birth control failure or unprotected sex. And again, just because your birth control failed you does not mean you failed. You are still in control. So what we are actually doing with Preventiza, this is exclusively on Vagisil.com or Preventiza.com, we are launching a BOGO-GO. So what the hell is a BOGO-GO? A BOGO-GO is if you buy a Preventiza, you get another one for free. And what we want you to do is to either have it on hand, give it to a friend, your sister, your roommate, whoever is the woman in your life that you do not want to have her go through that stressful, potentially moment, and have her be prepared and in control. Or you could go halvesies with someone. So we at Vagisil, we're continuously going to be working for more and more opportunities to partner with organizations in order to provide access to emergency contraception, because this is an option. This, I forgot to say one huge thing. There's so much misinformation around emergency contraceptive, what it is and what it isn't. What it is a supercharged dose of birth control, say it with me, levonorgestrel. We had to say that like 300 times one day.
Don't try to spell it either.
It's not easy. So it's a supercharged dose of levonorgestrel, which is the most common form of birth control. It's the most common ingredient in birth control. It's been out on the market for decades and decades and decades and proven to be safe. And what it does is, if you have not ovulated, it prevents you from ovulating in the first place. If you have ovulated, it prevents the sperm from fertilizing the egg. If you are already pregnant, this will not do anything. That is, I think, the biggest misconception. If you are already pregnant and you take emergency contraceptive, it will not do anything. It's the same as if you're pregnant and you don't realize it and you take a birth control pill because you're in the habit and nothing happens. Same thing. And I need that message to be cleared up, and I need it to be spread as far and wide as possible, and I need all of you and all the women that you love in your life to be prepared and in control and empowered and know that you have access and you are in control, because you're planners. We all are.
Amazing. Yes, information and accurate information is so important. Join me again in thanking Keech Combe Shetty, CEO of Vagisil, Dr. Logan Levkoff, and Bethany Edwards of Leah. Thank you so much.